Hey, thanks for joining us here on Iron Pros for another We Talk to Smart People episode of Construction Tech Talk, where we're joined once again by my new good friend, Alastair Hayfield. How's your day going, sir?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a difference that I know I've seen for a long time, and you've noted too, Alastair, that construction technology is coming to market, but it's coming at different rates and in different ways here in the United States and Canada and the Americas, as opposed to, frankly, our more sophisticated brethren and sisters across the pond in the UK and Europe. Okay, so Alastair, here we're going to talk about how you Brits and the Europeans are leaving us in the dust when it comes to adoption and advancing construction technology. So, and I'm embarrassed to be here, but yeah, here I am. So, my friend, school me. Why are we so far behind? And what's your observation?
I'd never be so crass as to say that.
Well, you're an exception then. I'm sorry.
So I think some of this comes down to just inherent differences in markets, right? If we look at the European market for construction projects, it's probably a lot more brownfield or existing projects, much less greenfield, and probably in a lot of areas it's much more urban, so there's kind of more public awareness about things like noise and pollution, and so what we're kind of seeing at a very high level is that Europe and UK including that is starting to adopt battery electric and other kind of alternatively powered construction equipment faster than the US. Some of that has been driven by kind of cities looking to kind of reduce emissions and cut down on polluting vehicles. Some of it is companies with like a kind of ESG focus around being more sustainable and appearing to be more green. And some of it is experience in education. I think it's probably true to say that there's been more focus on running projects that use battery electric machinery or hydrogen powered machinery in Europe, and so operators have had a chance to get to grips with machinery and see that it can perform. And I think there's been less of that in the US, and so it's kind of understandable that contractors and fleets are maybe a little bit wary about how the new technology can perform, because at the end of the day, who wants to go out on a job with a piece of equipment and then it doesn't work, right? Nobody wants that. But I think with a bit of education and maybe with some kind of trial projects, we would see that the US market, there's no fundamental reason why it couldn't kind of catch up and be pretty strong when it comes to electric machinery or other types of technology.
Yeah, what I noticed a bunch of years ago, more on the software side and on the project management side, is a governmental initiative to building information modeling, which would help cut down on cost, risk, rework, help to support the management of facilities and projects over their productive life. And that really came in the form of government requirements for government projects. So a lot of uh, contractors, architecture firms, engineering firms had to become fairly sophisticated pretty quickly. And I think your point about the fact that across the board, we're looking at fewer greenfield projects. I mean, heck, by me, if someone were to build something, they'd probably have to watch out for like indigenous people's effigy mounds and stuff like that. But we have a really big country with a lot of wide open spaces. Yeah, God willing, we start to look at more and more adaptive reuse because my guess is we're going to have a lot of empty office and commercial space here before too long, and we can find new uses for that. But that's going to be a different set of technologies than the advanced technology we might use now for grade control for an entirely new greenfield project. But I know that you have been at both ConExpo this year on our side of the pond and at Bauma, and Yeah, it seems like you might have had some observations at these shows to suggest that there are some specific differences.
Yeah, I think it's very much the case that in Europe you know the market is pretty much acknowledged now that the path for compact equipment over the next 5 to 10 years is to go battery electric. Mini excavators, small wheel loaders, things like that, and there's a lot of um, almost every manufacturer now has several models available that you can buy. They're running trial projects, and we're starting to see fleets, adopt these products and hire them out or kind of be using them on their flagship projects. So um, that's stronger than what I observed for the US market at ConExpo. Um, at ConExpo, we saw probably more focus around hydrogen for internal combustion engines. So this is kind of converting a standard diesel engine and running it on hydrogen instead, which lowers emissions. Um, so I think that there is maybe a feeling amongst engine manufacturers about equipment OEMs that they may pursue a slightly different strategy when it comes to emission reductions in the US. Um, and so that would be probably one of the big differences that we observed. Anecdotally, talking to a kind of a couple of fleets and dealers, um, it felt like there isn't much appetite for electrified machinery in the US market at the moment. And I think that comes right back to the point I made before. I think it kind of comes down to experience. I think if you've seen the equipment, if you've got a good feeling for it, you're more likely to want to use it. And I think that's maybe the next step for the US market. Some of the OEMs, some of the big fleets need to run some projects, involve operators, involve dealers, and get them feeling a little bit more comfortable about what the technology can actually do.
So at ConExpo and Bauma, what are some specific pieces of equipment or developments that you saw that really struck you that illustrate some of this?
Um, so if I think about Bauma first, if I think about Hitachi or Volvo or almost any of the kind of equipment OEMs there, they would have multiple electrified machines on their booths. They would have charging solutions as well, because that's a legitimate concern. How are you going to charge this type of machinery out in the field? Um, and it's very much the case that I think for the European market, they've started to identify the solutions to problems, and they're going to kind of push on with it. In the US, it's a little bit kind of pulled back from that. You saw manufacturers have got a model, maybe two. We saw some kind of charging solutions, but nowhere near to the kind of level that we saw in Bauma. So again, it sort of reiterates that it's you know the market is being a little bit more cautious in the US. But there's no reason to kind of fundamentally say it couldn't catch up. If there's a policy change, if there's more funding, there's no reason why it couldn't kind of move in that direction as well.
Yeah, yeah. Not just on the equipment side, but I've seen an advance of this in the business technology side too. And again, in this case, the UK seems to have gone ahead, where it seems like several years ago, and certainly 10 years ago, if you looked at someone in the UK, a contractor of any size or sophistication, they would have been, from what I've seen, more likely to be running some type of centralized enterprise application for things like project management, so that you can't have one project manager with their unique, you know, uh, custom approach to estimating and tracking, progress against milestones and percent completion, and then perhaps get like way out over their skis without anyone in senior management knowing. And in the meantime, people in the United States would be more likely to have each project manager being the master of the universe and having their unique way of doing things. I think we're catching up, but I think that vendors like Coins in the UK had a lot to do with that. And we're seeing now, for instance, with Procore really extending through the market, an improvement in that sector. And you know, particularly as we get to the point where people want to exchange data from not just within applications in their own business, but among their project trading partners into their subcontractors or owners, or from the subcontractor, the general, uh, or even material suppliers. Yeah, you need that in some type of formal tabular structure so that it can really kind of be extended out to others in an understandable and meaningful way. So all of these types of things are advancing, but I mean, I hate to say it, I'm deeply embarrassed to say that you guys are just crushing us,
I mean, some of it comes down to regulation, right? We have a highly regulated market, and that tends to drive a lot of use of kind of processes and software to kind of manage these things. What you may find is that as larger companies start to have more of a focus on sustainability, some of these kind of requirements for processes and tracking the information increases, right? And so you may find that that is a big driver for catch up, or for getting some more of those kind of product management processes into place on projects.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in this case, we laissez-faire market capitalists might have to begrudgingly accept that. Yeah, yeah, the regulation might be helping you guys there, but freedom. But
I'm
yeah,
I'm not going to make any judgment call on which way is better. You do you. It's fine.
I'm gonna kind of try to lick my wounds here a little bit and prepare better for our next conversation, where hopefully I'll have a better story to tell about what's going on this side of the pond. But if you like conversations like this, you want to learn more about the advances of technology in the construction space, keep on coming back here to Iron Pros. And even when we don't have the benefit of having Alastair around, we work really hard on this stuff. And thanks so much again for joining us, sir.
Thank you.